if anybody bought it or what.
And if there's a problem reading, and you've got people coming to you trying to get them to work it, you know what I mean? You had to design
Now, little Clement Coolville buys everything in Lobdell.
Support all the Twitch
which is a cost in itself.
He done bought everything around 415, Plantation.
It's a badge. You need housing your exile.
He bought that 13 acres that Brent Blanchard was selling there a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Came up
But
there.
anyway,
Thank God we never had that many. Jeez.
yeah, I know.
But I don't know, I'm trying to find out.
What's the latest report on the fishing, bud?
And Russell's
Get the
not
boat
gonna
ready
be
and-
here, so we're just waiting
I
on him to
brought my
witness.
boat home and I had to change the steer.
Russell's out today.
This stuff makes stuff like
20 years, right?
They say they coming, and you didn't hear from them.
I didn't hear from him.
I wasn't trying to do it down there.
Miss Joyce's usually
I
helps
said,
me.
well, I got
Well, we
more
got a quorum.
Yeah,
access to tools.
and you got 1 minute.
Didn't take much. Now the water's coming up.
I got an email today where they're gonna open my parents still. That's effective, they would do.
They telling us we gonna have the same thing we had in June of last year. Same kind of event, so I'm going Thursday and start sandbagging. I don't believe there'll be
There
much
he
fishing,
is.
with the water coming up.
On the show, they said she wasn't gonna be here tonight. So she'd be helping you with the computer, but you must figure it out that day.
They got must be really in for it.
We got a front meter though. She's in here every day.
Might be. This yours? I thought so. He just got it. No,
Trying to put the disc screen down in the wall.
I'm not very smart. I gotta give you two.
Disc screen full,
Give it to you twice.
See it?
If nothing else, I'm gonna put a couple stop signs just to hold the disc screen down, you can always. But actually, in last year, we had so much rain inside.
You need a shame for that.
Fault what they do. Water this camp last year.
Falls River?
Yeah, you had water in the camp last year.
Oh, yeah, a few years ago, yeah. I thought you were talking about it was up now, but it ain't up now.
We get it down on the red, it's starting to come up.
Everybody wants to figure out this calendar, and y'all get out.
That was loud.
Lost on it
We're live.
We need to go ahead and start.
We're a little lost on
We're
it
busy.
today.
We're busy.
You are.
It's not up on
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting of the zoning commission to order. If you would, silence all your cell phones and electronic devices. At this time, I'm gonna ask Mr. Barry Brewer, one of my former planning commission members, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank y'all. Okay. This time, if you would, mark your presence, please.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Everybody logged in?
Yes, sir.
I don't see anything. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I believe all of y'all have read the minutes of the previous meetings, so there'll be no additions or corrections. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So entertaining.
Motion by Kerry, second by
A second.
Ray. That they be approved. Is there any discussion? Being none, mark your ballot. Okay. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing for item number 3A. Continued conversation with regards to the distribution of draft and minutes. I believe you got a copy of the report of council and what he thinks about it. And what it appears to say really is that if it's labeled as a preliminary draft, there's no problem with it being distributed. But is there any discussion from the members?
The only concern I have is that we see them first and have a chance to make our changes before it's would that be acceptable? You know how she sends them to
Before you
us and we read them to see if there
classify
should be
them,
any
okay.
changes, check our votes. One word could change the meaning of what we said in
You're
the
right.
meeting, you know? So that would be my only recommendation, is that we see them first as board members, and if we don't have any changes, then I don't see the problem after that.
If I could add to what Ms. Joy is saying, we've all probably had this situation, but 6 months ago or something, I made a motion and I made a statement with my motion, and I can't remember, a couple of days later when Ms. Lynn gets the minutes out real quick, it was my fault, but a couple of days later, I saw a mistake in my part, not her, me, the way I worded it. And I just, like Ms. Joy says, I think the most important thing here is that the public gets the right word out. So, I feel like Ms. Joy on that too, that, you know, we need to make sure that we're able to go over it and look at it and make sure it's right. And we did make some changes, right, Lynn? I'd made some changes to it, so that's my comment.
I just
to
feel
it.
like if it's incorrect and it's put out into the public, we
Right.
can't get that back.
That's correct.
That's how I feel about it.
Well, the bottom line is you like everything that people see to be as correct as possible when they do
Absolutely.
see it.
No doubt.
So that's understandable. Any other comments?
I guess my only comment is I was looking at this resolution 11, so this is the first time I'm seeing this. Is that something that is enacted by the council? And if so, is that currently in the ordinance book? I'm assuming it would be since
Yes, sir. It was adopted in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
That's from back in 2015. The council made that resolution.
It's public policy, it's policy in the building now.
that we adhere to this.
All of the offices adhere to it at this time.
I think that mainly refers to the approved minutes more than the preliminary draft, though. Anyone else? Oh,
Mr. Chairman, of course, I pressed the request to speak button, and you may not be used to that from our table here. But a couple of weeks ago, we had a constituent came by, and he wanted a copy of the draft minutes. And I talked to Lynn, and she said a couple of planning commission members asked her not to send them out till after they were approved, which I think is the right thing to do. But, you know, sometimes, they email them to all y'all, and I could have easily told Lynn, hey, go ahead and email them a copy of the draft minutes, because more likely they're not going to change. But, and that's when she mentioned that, a couple of the planning commission, had reservations about it. I said, well, tell you what, just get me a resolution from the planning commission to say that we don't want the draft minutes sent out. So that's simply what we're asking tonight, is if you do a resolution and adopt it, and we will not send anybody except y'all, the people who needs to know, the draft resolutions. And once they're approved, then we'll send them to whoever wants them, It's, of course, there's always the question whether they become public record as soon as it happens. And with us video and everything now, some of these things we're not going to be able to take back. Once we say something, it's going to be, but I'm not sure if the planning commission meetings can be out, as the council meetings will probably be more the ones that most people will see, I guess. But that's all I was looking for, is a resolution from you. If that's what you want, that's what we'll do.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Mr. President, so if we do that, if somebody comes back, they're gonna have to go through this process to get it, or
Yeah, I didn't read the whole resolution, but
the resolution?
what it was, I wouldn't send or ask Lynn to send a draft resolution out to anyone, you know, because y'all made if that's what y'all want, they only get to see the approved minutes, you know, that's what we do. And that's. What does the council do? I don't think the council sends anything out other than to the council members until after they're approved, and then they, you know, they put in the paper by then, you know, but I don't think Michelle, Lynn? I don't
No,
think-
sir.
That's what the council does. Kinda seems like that's what we should do.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we should follow the council.
yeah.
When this issue came up, I did ask the other secretaries what they do, and this is what they do.
Yeah, I'm here to support y'all, whatever you want to do, and, you know, I never, you know, I get, you know, some disgruntled citizens coming in all the time, they want us to do things, but I always go back to my department heads and the people who are in charge doing the work to get their side of the story before I jump in and do anything. And so, I had my discussion with Lynn, and this is kind of what we came up with.
Okay, thank you for your support. Any other comments?
I guess my comment is, so do we need to make another resolution, or do we adopt the one we currently have on record from the council? Is it, do we have to have something independent, or can we just adopt what the council has?
So the council has a public records request policy, and I think in this case, it's really more of a timing issue. I mean, so you're having a meeting tonight, at some point, there's gonna be minutes produced. Once those minutes are produced, they become public record, and anybody can come and request that. I think that's the policy we have on the books right now. So, you know, what I would encourage Lynn to do is to stamp draft everywhere she can stamp draft. Pee Wee's right, once they start videotaping and audio taping all these meetings, things are immediately available. As soon as the meeting's over, it becomes public record at that point. Of course, we have a certain amount of time to respond to the public records request. We have a reasonable amount of time. I think in that reasonable amount of time, y'all would have a chance to review those before we have to comply with that public records request. So there's a policy on the books. I would just make your resolution to run concurrently with the policy that the council has. Probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, any other comments? Being known, entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Moved by Sidney, second by Ray, that the public hearing be closed. You need to vote on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed. This time I entertain a motion to dispense with the item on providing our draft minutes.
This would be, if we vote yes, we're going along with what the
Council.
council does.
I actually need verbiage. If you want to review your minutes before they're released to the public,
Okay,
I need you to make that motion.
okay,
I need the actual verbiage.
okay, so you want a motion for a resolution that the draft meeting minutes be reserved to the public until they are approved?
Until they're approved by you guys.
Right.
And then
By
once,
us.
once y'all have a reasonable amount
They're
of time to
still
read it.
draft minutes, but we've
Correct.
seen them.
Correct.
So
Okay.
that's the motion.
Okay. To
I'll
read,
second it.
okay, let me read.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Resolution to read and correct draft minutes before the draft minutes are allowed to be seen by the public.
Correct.
I think, okay, so here's the thing on that. I think you need to set some kind of time period because, again, as soon as that document is prepared, it becomes public record. From
Right.
the time you hit the last period and press save on your computer, it becomes a public record. Now, someone can come and request that public record. You have a certain amount of time to comply with that, a reasonable amount of time to comply with that. So, I think from the time that she sends y'all the minutes, y'all need to have a turnaround period on reviewing them. That's shorter than the amount of time between then and your next meeting. It needs to be like a 3-day period or something
We have
like
to
that.
respond by Friday, don't we?
Right.
I usually
think so.
ask you to respond by Friday. If I get it
That's
out by
reasonable.
Wednesday, sometimes it's
So make it
Thursday,
3
so how
days.
about we say Monday? The Monday
fine.
after?
Whatever,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
do it
fine.
Friday.
So, you know,
That's
for
fine.
example, you have a meeting tonight, perhaps she's gonna go type up the minutes tomorrow, send them to y'all tomorrow, and y'all would have till the end of the day on Friday or lunch on Monday before those are
Fine.
released to the public. That to me seems reasonable, meets the state law, et cetera.
So we'd say 3 business days. How about this? Resolution to approve the draft minutes within 3 days of receipt, 3 business days of receipt. Would that be fair?
Yes,
You're doing a
yes,
resolution.
yes.
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, so a vote yes would be resolution to approve the draft minutes within 3 business days before they're released to the public as draft.
Okay, now who's making that motion and who's, okay?
And I'll
Carrie
second.
Joy,
and Ms.
second.
Joy.
Carrie and Joy, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Being none, mark your ballot. Okay,
It's unanimous.
unanimous for, so. I'll try to get back to you as quick as possible with our thoughts on the minutes. Okay, other business. Public presentation by the All-Star Group with regard to proposed future development of 200-acre tract on Court Street, Port Island, Louisiana. Anybody here to represent that?
Yes, sir.
Am I supposed to sign in?
I think so.
Okay. All right. We'll hand out, this will be on the overhead, but this may be a little easier to
Thank you.
hand.
Thank you. How you doing, sir? All right.
Question, this is basically the same map we had a few months ago, or?
Sir, It's changed since the
Same
original
map?
submittal. Yes, sir. Ladies, Mr. Chairman, and commission members, I'm Jim Tatum. I'm with Tatum Engineering. We're in Baton Rouge. We've been working with the All-Star Group for a number of years on this, at this location, and of course, it's regained some interest here in the last 6 months to a year to try to bring this property online and as with residential use and maybe some commercial use. But this afternoon, Dennis Carlin with the All-Star Development Group was with me, and also Nick Ferlito, who's with Neil Schaefer. He's our traffic engineer. So as we get into this discussion, if you have any questions about traffic, we've got our expert here. But what I wanted to start with and touch base with you on, I understand this is just an informational meeting today. You know, we're not asking for any endorsement, certainly no vote, a roundtable discussion, and we'll answer any questions, address any concerns that you have. Of course, we came through this body several months ago. I think it was in maybe October, and we didn't leave with the results in that meeting that we were looking for. And of course, we followed up and went to the council, and we didn't get the results that we were looking for at the council level either. So we kind of stepped back and reevaluated how to try to move forward with this project. We've revised the layout. We've had multiple discussions and meetings with council members, including Mr. Phil Porto and Mr. Gary Spillman. Of course, this is Phil Porto's district that we're in. And we've had numerous meetings with Mr. Berthelot and other council members and his staff. Several meetings and discussions and correspondence with Lynn and her office, of course, Kevin, helping us, guide us through this process. There is some discussion that we've had with these various groups about some possible pending amendments to the PUD ordinance. Hopefully, we'll see some changes that are more compatible with the type of development that is that's being done in this area, that's consistent with other projects that are being built just down Highway 1, in which All-Star's involved in. And once these modifications are discussed on the table, the commission will have some input on that, and ultimately it'll go to the council. And if the ordinance is adjusted, modified, then we will make a fresh submittal with our revised plan. What I've got tonight, we can run through this real quickly, and Dennis and Nick, y'all chime in wherever you want to. We've got a little brief PowerPoint presentation that sort of outlines what we're doing, and I'll run through that real briefly, and then if you have any questions along the way, we'll back up and address each of the items. We'll start with a vicinity map that shows you where this roughly 200-acre parcel is located on Court Street. I know everybody's probably very familiar with it out here on the western limits of the city of Port Allen. The next slide we have is the overall layout. The primary modification that this plan shows that our earlier plan did not is in the center portion of the site. There was a large lake that we'd proposed, and we've moved it to the east and to the north. It kind of wraps around in there. And the plan as it's shown right now would start with the first phase would start in that lower left-hand corner and then proceed to the northeast from there. The second phase, and we can get to this in a second, we got a better slide for that, but after the second phase, and we'd be sort of by design at a location where we can make a decision to go one of three directions. And each direction would be a different size, a different price residential product. The next one this is just a little quick rendering of the type of residences that would be built in there, and the highlight of the features that it offers. The next one is, these are photographs that were taken at Sugar Mill down Highway 1, shows the type of residential development, the nature, the feel of the subdivision. And you can see it's curb and gutter streets, sidewalks, and nice single-family residences. Next one now, here's an overview, which the color the different colors make it easier to understand what we're proposing, but the property that fronts along Court Street, we would set it aside for some future commercial type use or possibly professional office use. It's not really suitable for single-family residential to back up to Court Street, so we would set it aside. But favoring the left-hand side, that first block that you can see in there that's sort of that olive green would be the first three phases of the project, and those would all consist of 50-foot lots. And then as you continue north, the green area would be future filings, and those would be 60-foot lots. And then to the right-hand side, the purple area would all be 70-foot lots. And then that lower right blue color is an area that would be set aside for future development, which may be some type of multifamily. But we don't have any plans for that area at this point, just reserving the site. And the next slide there would just show the first phase, which would be roughly about 65, 70 lots right in that area. That would be phase one. That would be the first project built to sort of test the waters and see how things develop. If it goes well and the development's accepted and supported by the community, then we would work into the future filings, which would be to the north of this one. And then lastly, we've got an aerial there, kind of very similar to that second slide that we had that was a vicinity map, but we wanted to show something that was a little bit zoomed in a little bit tighter so that you could see where the property lines are, and of course, that's the red line. And you can see over favoring the right-hand side where we have the STP is where the sewage treatment plant would be located. That question had come up several times through the earlier process, and it would favor that southeast side. It would be well away from any existing residential, and it would discharge into the 3 Canal and then to the intercoastal. But more importantly, we wanted to show that along that northern boundary, we're having minimal impact with the existing residential use up there. That was a concern last time. We had neighbors that were to the north of us that were concerned that this development would be too close, it would encroach, it would impact them adversely. We wanted to make certain to show that where the northwesternmost corner of this site falls, it's a pretty good distance from the other residential next to it. And of course, that northern end, realistically, probably wouldn't be developed for, it may be 10 or 12, 15 years before we would get that far back into the development. Takes a while to work through all these lots. But that's sort of a quick summary. And again, we're here tonight for informational purposes. We're here to answer any questions, address any concerns, and would like your input and your thoughts on what we're proposing to bring to West Baton Rouge Parish. So I'll be available right here, and Dennis and also Nick are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Jim, assuming that the whole development goes through, how many homes total?
About 540.
I remember back at the hearings, they were concerned about drainage and about increased traffic congestion. Do
Yes, sir.
you have any idea about
We can
how many
certainly
cars a
address
day
that.
that will put on the?
I can help you with the drainage part of it. Nick can help us with the traffic part of it. But there's this particular property effectively has 4 sizable ditches in it that flow from west to east. They all flow to the 3 Canal. All this property and the adjoining property to the west and some of it to the north, all flows to the 3 Canal. And I don't have a laser or,
Yeah.
but I could there we go, thank you.
Everything will be going
Well,
across Court Street,
Let me do it this way.
but everything will be going across Court Street?
No, sir.
It
It
won't?
all flows to the 3 Canal. When it hits
Okay.
the 3 Canal, it goes south through the bridge. That is Court Street.
Okay,
But there's 4 ditches. There's what we call the north ditch, which is on or near that northern property line. We've got what we call the power line ditch, which there's a GSU transmission line that runs through this site. And there's a ditch that runs west to east into the 3 Canal. We've got what we call the Sarco ditch because of the Sarco family property right there. There's a ditch that runs all the way through and ties into the 3 Canal. And then there's a 4th ditch that's right along Court Street that makes its way into it. And we're gonna construct improvements to those ditches. Plus, obviously, we've got a series of lakes and ponds that will route the storm.
they'll be serving as detention or retention or
Yes, sir.
whatever you,
Yes, sir. We'll design it to have 0 impact for 10-year design storm on the adjoining property.
okay, thank you, sir.
And the property's not in the flood zone. So, I mean, that's, some of the ditches, the bottom of the ditches are obviously in the flood zone, but the property as a whole is not flood prone.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Taylor?
I know you said that you had added an additional buffer for the residents to the north of you. Did you speak with any of those residents? Or no? When I say you, I mean, I guess, the team, the development team.
Well,
I noted that y'all had spoke to, Mr. Pee Wee and Gary and Phil on independent meetings. Did y'all address the
We
residents?
have not had a specific meeting with the adjoining property owners to the north. Now, I think Pee Wee has had some meetings,
Yeah.
and maybe he can address that.
Kenny Carl.
Okay.
And I also have a presentation, I'm sure you have too tonight, but, we talked to him, we invited him to invite whoever he wants to come. He's gonna do on that north line ditch, he's gonna improve that ditch, and we're gonna maintain it, we're gonna need a 20-foot servitude probably from the top of the bank, so that there'll be somewhat of a buffer, plus it's built a setback line. So, we kind of discussed that.
Right, we'll adjust this plan. I mean, we've revised the plan. This isn't the last one. We'll make some adjustments in there, and we'll address, we're going to properly address all the concerns of the adjoining property owners.
But Jim, you're still gonna be somewhere around 500 homes.
Correct.
That's in the first filing?
No,
No, sir.
That's the
First
total.
filing would be
that's the total.
all told, yeah.
And that's what you say, about a 1,700 square foot home being built there?
I think Dennis Wood, they're gonna be 16 to 2,000.
1,700. Okay. Anybody else have any more questions, Mr. Tatum, before we get the traffic specialist up here?
No.
Okay.
Good evening. My name's Nick Ferlito with Neil Schaefer. Our firm, we do
Could you
specialize.
state the name, please, for
Nick Ferlito
the?
with Neil Schaefer. Our firm does specialize in transportation traffic engineering, and we've been in business in the area for about 25 years. I think that's our anniversary this year. From a traffic standpoint, we haven't performed the traffic impact study as of yet, but our scopes for the study will be able to, we'll study Court Street from LA 415 all the way over to LA 1, and that'll include the signalized intersection at 14th Street. We'll also look at the proposed entrances to see if, as the development grows and new phases and filings are added, when and where the turn lanes, if any turn lanes will be required on Court Street, whether they're left turn lanes or right turn lanes into the site. Also, our analysis will look at to see if there's any adverse impacts to some of the adjacent intersections at 415 or LA 1, and look at ways to mitigate those impacts. We counted traffic towards the end of last year in October. We've just been re-engaged by our client to start the impact study, so as of next week, we'll be full force into doing the study itself.
Nick, currently, there's only one means of ingress and egress, and that's on Court, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, initially there's one with phase one, but if you looked at when the last phase with the big, larger lots, apartments, there will be a secondary access there as well.
Also, would want to note also that in future developments, future phases, we're showing 3 connections to adjacent property. 1 to the north and 2 to the west.
Meaning you're gonna leave that for connectivity
Correct.
at a later
Future.
stage?
Correct.
Yeah.
And if this property to the west of us is brought into development, they'll have to tie into our streets.
Well, how long do you expect it to take to get from the first filing to finish them all up? Depends on how many people buy them, huh?
To 17? 17?
The market dictates how fast it does. We think there's enough absorption that it should take about 10 years.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments up here? Lynn, you all right?
No. I'm sorry.
She's honest.
Okay. Hey, hold on. If nobody else up here has any comments, I'll open it up to
We
the
don't know how to do it.
audience.
My name's Chris Kershaw, 350 Van Zoel Drive in Brewley, Louisiana. My question is for Mr. Tatum. Said that there would be some possible amendments to the PUD ordinance. Can you tell me what those would be? Because right now, of course, we only vote on what our current ordinance says. So if you said there's gonna be some possible amendments, can you tell me what they
There's
are?
been some discussion about yard requirements, the ratio.
Could y'all speak to the group, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Been some discussion about front yard and side yard requirements. There's been some discussion about the overall density ratio and also some discussion about block lengths. So that's basically it. Did I miss anything on that?
Jim's exactly right. We've been in discussions with the developer and the council and the administration about possibly tweaking PUD ordinance, and you'll see something coming out soon. We're still discussing what needs to be tweaked, and it's all about market issues. I mean, these guys know what the market requires better than we do. I mean, we're planners, but they deal with the market every day, so we're working with them to come up with some reasonable market-driven solutions to the ordinance and make sure it's meets the needs of today's market. And the ones he discussed are the ones that we're working on.
Well, will there be any, I guess you call it playground area to keep the kids from playing in the streets, or?
Yes. We've got that, kind of hard to see on that small display up there, but we've got a number of what we're calling green spaces, and that's a requirement in the PUD ordinance. And at the northern end of the site, we're setting up a park. The areas around the proposed lakes will also be common areas that will allow for kids to play, will allow for trails and paths around the water features. But we've got several things about this property from an engineering layout standpoint. We've got as you can see, kind of from southwest to northeast, there's a pipeline. There's an 30-foot Exxon pipeline right away that runs through this property. We met with the Exxon folks, and as long as we play by their rules, they don't have a problem with us crossing the pipeline. Right now we're proposing to cross it twice, and the pipeline right away, along with the 4 ditches that run through the site, kind of dictated how we were going to put this layout together and how we could route our streets, and then you always end up with some awkward shaped pieces of property that really aren't suitable to build a house on, but they're ideal for a green space and a park area. So we've set aside several different areas, multiple areas. I haven't counted them, quite honestly, but I would say it's probably in the neighborhood of about 12 different areas that are set up that will be green spaces.
Well, who will maintain the green areas?
Homeowners Association.
Jim, I was unaware of the pipeline and I kind of missed it. Where did you say it was? Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah,
I see it.
right here. And that's why these
Gotcha.
long straight stretches are paralleling the pipeline. We're kind of married to that.
Okay.
And how many play areas you said? 12?
Well, I hadn't counted them, but it's about a dozen
I
throughout the
think my
whole
eyes
site.
must be bad. I can't see them very good, but
Let's see, in that first, let's see,
yeah, I see 2 here, 3, 4. Yeah. I'm the same way.
yeah, but it's in these areas. This was a deal done by the planner, but you can see it on here where we've
I
got
can kind of see here, yeah.
called
Must
green
be a pond.
space.
Okay. See a lot of ponds.
And again, this isn't the end all.
Yeah, I understand.
When we
Yeah,
get,
it's just a,
when we get into the real planning, and
Yeah.
Kevin and Lynn hold our feet to the fire, we've got certain things we're going
I have a big, Jim, I have a big fire. I have a big fire.
Oh, okay.
Wear thick shoes.
Okay. Oh, ladies.
We're still learning all the technology here. I don't know what's in all these compartments. Yeah, we found out.
Oh, wow, there you go.
I can do this, but y'all can't see it.
It shows up on that wall over there.
Put it on your head. Don't point that at an airplane. So anything, any other, yes, sir?
The sewer treatment plant, who maintains that?
It'll be privately owned and maintained, paid for by the residents. And we've done that in multiple subdivisions. And, we've got a contractor out of Gonzales, Tom Pertweedy's with Ascension Wastewater. And, all told, he probably has 250 treatment plants that he owns, operates, and maintains. And, as a part of this development, we'll size the treatment plant so that it ultimately can service all the lots. On the front end, it'll be a little smaller, and it'll be designed where it can be enlarged as more filings come online. And there'll be monthly sewer user fees that are collected and paid to Ascension Wastewater to maintain and operate the facility.
And that's for how long? That's forever?
That's forever.
Forever and
As
ever?
long as there's water being generated in the,
Okay, forever.
forever and ever.
Gotcha. Forever and ever, y'all heard that. Okay.
So, pardon my ignorance on this, Jim, and maybe you can help me out on this, but the sewer treatment plant, is it gonna have any odor associated with it, such that pending wind direction, residents adjacent to it are gonna have an odor, foul odor at any time?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about Nicholson, there was some nice homes on Nicholson as you were approaching the north gates of LSU. They put that treatment plant and every home left,
Yeah.
and they now park there. So, you
Well,
know,
that's a little different deal. That was the central, East Baton Rouge Parish Central plant that was
yeah,
on
it's
River
larger
Road, and it was,
on the scale,
it was
understood.
it was about a 50 million gallon a day plant.
Yeah,
Okay, and what we're looking at here would be probably something in the neighborhood of 200,000 gallons. Be a much smaller operation. And, you know, as long as these plants are operating properly and they're being aerated properly, there's a very minimal odor that comes from them. And the biggest enemy for a treatment facility is temperature change. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you're on Gardere in Scotlandville or the old central plant or any plant in West Baton Rouge Parish. When you get these big temperature swings, it affects the operation of the plant, and then temperatures moderate, and in a few days it gets back stable again.
so is there any other option to relocate this, or no?
Well, actually,
I mean, does it have,
yeah.
I guess my question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I guess my question is, does the sewer treatment plant have to reside on the 200 acres, or can it be remote?
it can be remote. We don't own any remote property. So we took the most remote location on this site that would have the least amount of impact on surrounding properties and this development, and chose to, and of course, the outfall's going into the 3 Canal, so we wanted to be close to the 3 Canal. So all things considered, it's probably the best location for this particular layout. And there were some concerns expressed by the neighbors to the north that there would be possibly a treatment plant near them, and then we tried to
No, I would understand.
stay away from them as much as we could.
But as far as I know though, Rusty, the EPA doesn't regulate smell. They regulate what comes out as far as parts per million of this or that. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Any other questions from the audience? Okay, would you come up in? We got,
Barry will say something. Yeah, Barry will say something.
come up in, state your name, please, for your record.
Barry Brewer, I reside at 4121 Roseland Drive. Two questions I had, and one regarding the sewer plant. Having been retired from the city here, we spent several $1 million a number of years ago because we used to drop everything into 3 canals. That was our outflow. And we were having trouble meeting EPA requirements. And the state recommended, which we took the recommendation to go to the river with it. So I'm not sure, have you checked what I mean, your plant's gonna be able to meet those parameters at EPA?
Tertiary treatment.
Okay, all right. And the other thing, had questions for Mr. Ferlito in reference to the traffic, the modeling. I'm assuming your model is gonna be based upon the current sequence of lights on 415 and Court Street as far as, how you're gonna start your base modeling?
Yeah, we'll get that information from DOTD,
Okay,
their records, on how those signals operate, and that'll be our baseline
okay.
with the existing counts.
Do y'all know anything about the, or does anybody, even Pee Wee, do y'all know as far as the bridge right there? Because it's so old, and I think probably substandard. Does the state have any,
That's the state, I don't, we had,
you know, if they have any plans to replace it?
office and bridges inspection, and they didn't write it up or anything, you know.
Okay,
I checked now, I don't know if they, cause that bridge is in Paxton, so it should be inspected by the state, but the state is actually responsible for it.
yeah, okay. All right, that's all.
I haven't heard anything.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry.
Anybody else? Mr. President?
I do have a, short PowerPoint, I think. Let's see. Before I get started, you know, I don't come to very many planning commission meetings, and that's kind of my purpose, and I think you have a job to do without me trying to influence you. But I want to thank you for what you do. I know you have some very tough decisions to make, and it's you know, you go home and you don't know, did I do right or did I wrong, or you second guess yourself maybe sometimes, but I appreciate what you do. I've actually sat on the planning commission in Addis for a while, sat on the council for a while, and these zoning issues and approving plats and stuff are some very difficult, some real personal things that you have to deal with. But I do thank you for your service to this parish. I'm here on behalf of West Baton Rouge Parish because I feel it's part of my job to try to, you know, to tell you what's happening in the parish and what this subdivision may mean to the parish. You know, if you can see the first slide, when he was speaking about how many homes, you can see there's 536 that he was going to be able to put in the city of Port Allen if he had gone that route. And then we was down at 468. And so what happens when, you know, and I think he's got a little formula at the bottom of the thing. Let me get my sheet straight. Okay. He would have lost 68 lots at $35,000 a lot. Would have been like, you know, 2.3, almost $2.4 million. You know, but that's not the reason why I'm here today. The reason why is to let you know that we need to compete for this project. If it goes to the city, what's happened? Go next slide. What happens, and I'm not sure if all of you know, but we have a 5-cent sales tax in West Baton Rouge Parish, where 2 cents, two of that 5 cents goes to the parish and the municipalities. And we base that 2 cents on two different taxes. There was a tax that goes back and it's adjusted every 10 years at the federal census when they do it, and one is addressed annually, which we do that one annually, and based on permits, and we did a little formula with the 3 municipalities to figure out how to split that sales tax. So 1 cent is done every 10 years, and 1 cent is done every year. But and as the population changes and stuff, so does the sales tax, you know, for the parish. And so what happens, if you could look on this next slide, in that first column, you can see on the 10-year census, we getting 52.24% of the revenues, or a little over 52%. On that 10-year tax. On the other one, we are now 2.17% down at the bottom of that first column, lower than what we are at the 10-year census. So one of those cents, we getting 50%, 50.06%. The 10-year, we get 52%. But what I'm trying to show you is as we, not losing population, but Addis, you know, you can, I'm sure in the next phase, Addis is kind of outrunning everybody, and they fixing to take over this thing. And I feel if the parish gets below around 45%, which probably is gonna be a while before that would happen, but if this goes like in the corporate limits of Port Allen, they would get that revenue based on that population increase, where we'll get it and so what happens is we'll start losing some monies and stuff. And show the next slide, Kevin. 'Cause I can't see the two. The next thing is the permits. Those permits are what happened. If you look in the 2017 column, you can see Addis, the slide, I don't know if I can shift it over a little bit. But in Addis, they sold 130 permits last year. The parish sold 39. There's 3 in Port Allen and 9 in Bruley. Already this year, in 2018, you can see they sold 38 permits. So what's going to happen in about when the 10-year census come on, we're going to have to start adjusting some of the things that we may do as services to government. Right now, you know, the industrial tax and the retail is starting to pick up, you know, for us some. But if we don't continue to get around that 50% market stuff, some of the things that we require to do statutorily, like keep up the courthouse, and we also supplement some of our recreation programs. They have a recreation millage, but we use our general fund monies to do some of that. Our road overlays. We do not have a road tax in West Baton Rouge Parish, and that comes out of our general fund. So a lot of things that we do, from the coroner to the courthouse to the jail, a lot of those things, mosquito abatement is about a $300,000 a year project that we do. We spray all the cities, but we do a lot of things for those cities as well. We won't be able to maintain those things as well as we're doing now. So it's important for us to try to keep that. I think that's the last one. But some other things, you know, when I first heard about this project and they were trying to move it, you know, to Port Allen, I thought, you know, great, you know, we're finally getting some growth on the north side of the Intercoastal Canal where we can have a balance with our transportation. We got a much better grid, you got more options on the north side of the canal. And so I was kind of excited about that. Our schools, you know, in population, you know, Bruley, the population of Bruley is outrunning and having to build more schools, where there's capacity left at Port Allen High School. And these lots that these people are gonna develop are the same ones in Sugar Mill. And if you've never been to Sugar Mill, you need to go down there and see, because, you know, they got sidewalks on both sides of the street. These houses are nice. These are not low-income houses. These houses are $175,000 to $210,000 and up. Depends on, you know, which ones you want to do. But you know, that's going to take a man and probably his wife or his spouse working to try to pay these things. You're going to have a probably average income, a minimum about $60,000 household income a year to probably even get in one of these houses. So this could be a working class, you know, with people who send their kids to public school. It's going to kind of balance out what we need in the northern end of our parish. So I think this is something that we really need to consider looking at. We are tweaking some ordinance, like they say, and I think we have scheduled for the March 22nd to do introduction of an ordinance that we're gonna probably get it back to Lennon's and, you know, share it with all of y'all before we do that. But we are tweaking some of the things that Jim Tatum had talked about. You know, we're looking at some street blocks in some of the density. What we did take out of it, and the PUD ordinance actually has a place where you can put 45-foot lots in there. We have taken that out, but so there's some things that we're working that benefits us, it benefits him, but again, I think this project's gonna happen, you know, one way or another. Either we're gonna do it or the city of Port Allen's gonna do it, and I'm not trying to wish anything bad on the city. But, you know, I think, you know, right now we have the ball, it's in our court, and I think, you know, it's our best interest to move forward. I know this thing was voted down, like, I don't know if it's 8-1 or whatever it was, last time it came to planning commission, but we're gonna come back and try to work with them, try to get everything y'all asked about, and try to get what the constituents was showing us at the public meeting we had at the community center when this thing was voted down, I think a 6-3 at the parish council level. And it's gonna be a new application, it's gonna be a different design, we're gonna have a new ordinance. And so, it's something that I want you to give a lot of thought to and just think about on our end of it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. I know I talk a lot, but one thing we was talking about, Rusty maybe was talking about the sewage smell. But if those plants are operating right, because we got about 18 of them, and I was over there all day yesterday working on, not working, but kind of, you know, looking at all about sewer sites and, you know, and really we on top of them. And if they're running right, you can't hardly smell them. But if they get out of whack, the aerators go off or something, you got some issues and they go to smelling quick and people let us know really quick. But these are gonna be regulated. They're gonna own them. They're gonna be operated by an independent contractor. And those sewer treatment plants, they're gonna be regulated by the Public Service Commission as far as the rates and everything else. And it's, you know, like, to be honest with you, we don't make a dime on sewage. In fact, if it wasn't for the water and gas portion of our utilities kind of bailing out the sewer system, you know, we would really be in a bind with some of that stuff, you know. But, you know, sewage is not a good business to be in, you know, where we are. But I appreciate it. I'll be glad to answer any question. I hope I explained this to y'all good enough. I was kind of getting all my points together later to see. But, Mr. Chairman?
The only thing I can say, if these 500 come in there and they vote to incorporate with Port Allen, will that help or hurt?
It would help Port
Situation.
Allen. If Port Allen numbers go up and Addis continue to go up, then ours gotta go down, because, you know, we got 100%, and the bigger percentage everybody else take, that's what happened now.
The parish's share goes down at that point.
Absolutely. And
What's the protocol, Mr. Peewee, for annexing that property?
annexing is, if you remember, I don't know if you maybe remember or not, but it's similar to what happened on the Walmart area. You know, Bubba Phillips, he came to us and wanted some things that we wouldn't give him, as far as his subdivision, and so what we did is he went to the city agreed to his terms, and so all they needed, I think, is 37 feet of a connector, you know, which they used LA1 to connect to that property, and they were able to annex it because he was the only vote that he was annexing only his property at the time. He tried to come back later and do the other ones, but, you know, that failed, but he's, but that's kind of all he needs to do. In this case, the property owner is 200 acres, just got a petition. You know, it's a little bit of legal work he has to do, but he'll sign a petition. He's the only one, and he's got the state right away, which the state grants you to use that. I think got to get a letter from the state, and he could go ahead and annex it because there's nobody to vote against him. So it's relatively easy. Addis is probably expert at it because they probably done, you know, a dozen or more annexations over the last 10 years.
So what you said, the same thing you did with LA1, they could do the same thing with Court Street.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's nothing that the parish could do if this is an unincorporated property that the parish has currently, and it was this prime piece of real estate maybe that we had future plans for, something that the parish envisioned coming in, it would be just as easy for them to annex that. The parish would not have any say-so to cease with you know, an annexation.
The only way that we could stop them, and I'll go back to Mr. Ted Dempsey, you know, who showed us some things that we learned, some lessons. Back when we were actually rebuilding Westport, the road and some of the sewer systems and stuff, we had to rehab and we had to spend a lot of money. We had borrowed like $500,000, you know. We had the money in the bank to do those things, but what we did is we bonded them out, you know, and so long as we have a bond on that thing in the city or somebody comes in to annex them things and we'll file a letter of objection and we'll say, you know, that, you know, like, you know, you, by annexing that property, is taking our revenue away from us that we're using to bond, to pay that debt. And so, but you gotta have some kind of good excuses, I mean, not excuses, some good reasons, to be able to do those things.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
One quick comment, Mr. John, is, I did meet with Carrie and I met with Kenny Carr, because Kenny, I saw Kenny away from, you know, was at some little thing, maybe at the church in Port Island, and he asked me to, you know, he wanted me to meet with him and bring him and explain him all of our stuff and where we stand and stuff, and so I did do that, so he was aware of all what I showed you tonight, as well as, you know, I asked him to spread it around the neighborhood, and he said he would. In fact, I was expecting to see some of them or a few more of them here tonight, but apparently it didn't work out that very fair about it.
Well, what about Mike Zito?
I hadn't talked to Mike Zito, you talking about the
Yeah,
city marshal?
yeah, I think that's what he's talking about. He was,
More about the traffic, I think, wasn't it?
I didn't talk to him, but I'll be glad if, you know, if he's got some issues to talk to anybody.
not yet.
Okay.
But anyway, it's just something for y'all to consider. It's, you know, it's a lot, you know, riding on this subject. We're trying to make it to where, you know, it's something that the developers can live with. It's something that, you know, we can live with and hopefully the whole community.
Okay.
Let me tell you, you know, those guys, you see them 38 permits they sold just this month. Those 38 permits, like probably 90% of them are in Sugar Mill. And they billing them, they know what the market is, they know what people can afford, and they got the same developer, DSDL, building the houses, they developing the property, and that's the same thing you can do over here on Court Street. So, you know, it's not like we talking to somebody outside that we don't know anything about. You know, we know they're doing a good job over there, and I think, you know, in my talking with David Toops down in Addis, you know, they're very satisfied with what they seeing over there in Addis.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I was in favor of this project when it first came to us, and I'm still in favor of it. I think it'd be a good project.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the audience have any comments? Well, Mr. Tatum, I appreciate y'all's coming up here and informing us on everything.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate your time and your consideration. You know, we'll be back before this commission as things progress here with these changes. If they do in fact come about in the PUD ordinance, we will resubmit. We'll have a whole new application, a new revised layout, very similar to what you've seen here tonight. And what we're putting together here, it's an open book. Anybody that has any questions or concerns, they can call me, Dennis, Nick, any of us. We're available, and we'll come back before this commission hopefully in about 60 days. Is that about? Hopefully. I understand. Look, and there's no, in this line of work, there's, you know.
Well, if it's like last time,
Nothing's certain.
Just wear your helmets when you come, you know.
That's right. Nothing's certain, but we'll, I agree. We'll try to be as cooperative and as reasonable and try to make this work well for everybody. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
I'll second it.
Move and second to adjourn. Would mark your ballot. Okay, thank y'all. At this time, I'm gonna call the meeting of Planning Commission to order. Believe y'all all had a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting, so No additions or corrections. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Kerry, second by
Second.
Rusty. Okay. Any discussion? Being none, mark your ballot. Okay, public hearings, there are none. Well, the business, there is none. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I got one item.
You got something?
I'm gonna try to make it quick. We are taping our meetings. We haven't decided whether they're gonna go live or not. It costs money, obviously. We'll have to rent space on YouTube and what have you. But I will send it out to you so that you can see what you look like, on screen. When you're in the mic.
Video, you're talking
Video, yeah, I'm sorry. And whenever you're on the mic, that camera up there is facing at you, and then when the podium is being used, it goes to the podium, and it goes back and forth. I'm lucky enough, I get to watch Michelle first, so I know what to do, but I know I fidget. But
So you're telling me my expressions are all there? That's the thing. I
only
have
if
to
mine
continue.
are. Anyway, I'm gonna send it to you just so you could, see what it looks like and what it will look like. And Pee Wee is right, whatever is going to be said is going to be said. And there's some things, you've got people out there, we can't fix what malicious people wanna do. But,
I know,
we're
all I
gonna do the
meant
best we
by
can.
that was if I said, there could be one word, you accidentally typed it up and left that one
Yes.
word out, it changes the meaning
Right.
of the sentence. That's what I meant.
And I appreciate that, I know exactly what you
Yeah.
mean. And I do not listen to the audio when I'm typing, I'm doing it by notes and by, but just like what happened with Carrie, I had to go back and listen, and whenever we discussed it.
Yep.
It's what you're thinking, but it doesn't necessarily what comes out your mouth. I completely agree. And I appreciate y'all admitting that I'm human.
I mean,
Or
stuff
acknowledging.
happens, you know?
On
Stuff
behalf of
happens.
the commission, we want to hope your throat gets better and your body gets better and you're better for the next meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
The heck you say?
I move.
Okay, if you would mark your ballot. I want to thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for your, I will, all good. No, I'm good. Oh, listen, you guys, also, voted, down, honey status. We are locking the doors from the inside, so when you guys go out, you can't come back in, like, it's like it used to be. Because I'm locking the doors from here.
Is Kevin going to see you out?
No, he's gone, but I'm gonna walk out that door, right there, right by
I'm parked right next to you, so I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait for you, I'm right next to you.
I won't be
Get well,
back.
Miss Lynn. I don't like to see you sick.
Oh, it's just allergies and sinus, doggone it. But thank you, Mr. John, I
Everything's
appreciate it.
blooming now.
Everything's blooming, you
My
can tell by my
car is
voice.
yellow.